Hello and welcome. So we're going to be going through how to prep and paint the tub of a 109 Series 3 fitted for radio ex-military Land Rover. So you're joining me partway through. What I'm just doing now is sanding it back to bare metal. So what I've been using is 120 PowerTech grit like this, using an orbital sander and also using a smaller sander just to get into all the cracks and areas. As you can see with this, where it's curved, sometimes you need something a bit different. Ideally, if you have a air compressor, use a pneumatic sander. And with mine, it's got a lot of bits of adhesive from where it had old soundproofing. And for that to get it off, I'm just using a wire wheel attached to a drill. And also a good recommend as well is to use a old wood chisel, which sounds weird, but it does work. It works better than using, say, a sharp blade on a scraper, which does also work for scoring, but I would recommend the wood chisel more. So here are some items I'd definitely recommend when working on the Land Rover, especially when sanding the rear tub, is a proper ventilator mask with actual filters on it, ear defenders or something similar. I always use noise cancelling headphones because it's quite nice to listen to music, or if you do have these, just put in in-ear headphones and they will do the job as well. And something for ventilation, I use a hoover to extract the dust, or fans if possible, or I open the back gates here just so then you can get some breeze through. So now I'm going to use the orbital sander with some 220 grit, and as you'll see on here, this is currently sanded with 120. You start to see the grain change as it starts to get smoother, ready for the first layer of paint. So one of my recommended tricks when using a wire wheel is to always alternate directions. So I know that reverse on a drill isn't as fast as going forwards, but as you can see, the brushes are going to the left as I've been going forward too much. So sometimes to get a bit more abrasion than if you go the other way, will then take a bit more off, and it just keeps the brushes being straight, so your wire wheel will last longer. Apologies if I sound a bit muffled in this one. I've got my face mask on because there's a lot of dust in the air. It's now ready to be prepped for the painting. I'm going to put some dust sheets in there. I've got some UV tape, which I'm going to use for some little fixtures and fittings like this. As you can see, there's some low points that I didn't get. A lot of these are just tack welds where it was done originally. So you're never going to get rid of those. And it's part of the originality of the Land Rover. So I think they're quite important to keep in. But yeah, so you're going to prep it, clean it. I've got the metal surface cleaner from Paintman, and then after I've gone over that, you need to do it with a lint-free cloth first with a wet, and then go over it with a dry, just to take it up afterwards, but I'll show you that as I do it. And then after that, I'm going to go over it with the tack cloths, just to make sure there's no sand residue. First, I'm going to clean up all of this, and also blow through with a leaf blower just to get out any dust. So one of the things that's important to do is make sure that there's no dust in it, because of course if you have dust, then that will get in the paint, and then your paint will look rubbish. So as you can see at the end, there's quite a bit. So rather than using the hoover, as you can see, there's a lot of dust in the air here. So you're going to be slightly unconventional. You can use the electric leaf blower just to blow it all out. But equally, a hoover works, or just ventilating and giving it some time. So I have now prepped it, and you can see by the blue tape. Some of it looks a bit scruffy, but the important thing is you get your lines really crisp, such as over here, just on the edge where you don't want the paint to go. So it may look not as neat as, say, a paint shop would do it, but it's still very functional. What I've done is I've got some new microfiber cloths for cleaning it down with the Paintman bare metal cleaner. It's important when you're using prep clean to get the right one. It will, on the Paintman website, there's a lot of advice and there's a lot of information about which ones you need. This is very much bare metal cleaner, as you can see, as I've stripped it all the way back. Got new cloths, I've got new gloves just to make sure there's no contamination, as a lot of my gloves are previously used, So it's just important to make sure that the surface is very clean before you start painting. For this part as well, I am wearing a face mask, as you can see just from the sanding down. This is how dirty the filters get, and I changed it halfway through, so it's not even half as bad. But there's a lot of health warnings on all the paint stuff all the way through, so we'd always recommend wearing a face mask. Also, I will mention, I think it's important to have well lit. I've got a Makita inspection light and an LED, so I can see exactly what I'm doing. I've got the prep cleaner ready, and I've got microfiber cloths, which also are lint free, which is what you need for this. And then I've got 4. One for cleaning, one for drying, one for cleaning, one for drying for each side. It's important to rotate them so then you don't contaminate anything, or anything they pick up doesn't then transfer. So I've just finished cleaning it. I'll show you the cloths. It looked this clean before, but I'll show you how much dirt actually came off on the cloths. Now we're ready to go over it with the tack cloths, just to make sure there's no dust and no dirt before we spray it with the etch primer. I've also got on this an easy gun from Paintman. They're about £10. Just makes it so much easier when you're spraying, just to get a good finish. Would strongly recommend investing in one of these.
So what I'm doing here is I'm spraying in sort of a 3" by 3" section, just going back and forth, making sure I'm not spraying too much at the sides. And as you can see, it will slowly start to cover the area. You want to try and make it quite even if you can, but it can be quite hard, so I always then go over at the end and just go over any spots that got missed.
Here you go, it's now a day dry, and you can see the etch primer is looking very good on both sides. And I've just, after doing the sample, I'm now ready to paint it. Very important to go over the tack cloth. I just did it on this side, and you can see the amount of dirt that's come up, despite being in a clean garage. Okay, so I've now got my synthetic primer, again from Paintman, and I've got the brush set. I'll put all the link for everything like this in the description. I'm just going to start with a little practice piece. This is the piece that holds back the lights in the rear seat tubs. So I'm just going to do a practice. Fill this up with the paint after while shaking it, roll it thinly, and then the idea is that you want to sort of move in sections, but cover it all over. So I think the idea is 3 roller sections at a time, just then you get an even finish. Okay, so the filler primer is done and it's dried. I've given it 24 hours to dry. So you can see it now here. And it's completely hidden a lot of those big marks and scrapes around here. Do you see the spot wells, which I quite like, but then again here, there's a lot of scratching. So I'm now going to go over it with some wet and dry sandpaper. This is again from Paintman. This is 991. So pretty fine, just to go over and give the paint something to grip to when we go over that for the next layer.
So I missed a little bit there. I went over it with the sandpaper just to give it a light finish. This is just to give something for the paint to adhere to. And then the same as the filler primer, and just went over in little sections until the whole area was covered. It was quite easy to do and much the same as the filler primer. So it's quite nice as you build up towards painting. I'm sure you'll be more confident by the time you get to the paint.
Look at this, fully repainted. Satin's just drying now. It looks absolutely fantastic. Very, very impressed with the Paintman paint and the result of all the hours of sanding, the prepping. This is only the first coat, there will be another coat, but I wanted to get this on ready for a meet at Caffeine and Machine this weekend. So another coat will be going on next week. But yeah, very happy all in all.